Welcome to episode, what are we at, 24?
24.
Right?
Yep, 24.
Jeez Louise, man.
Going for 500? Or is
Yeah,
that
we're close. We're close, though.
Oh, no, that's when Pat said he would come on. Our buddy Pat said he'd come on in the 500th episode. So we're working up towards that.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. But we've got 24, and we do have a special guest.
We do have a special guest.
We have Mr. Adam Malik. Welcome.
How's it going, man?
So Adam is a local runner. He's an awesome dude. Maybe I'll have you give like a little intro of yourself, like running wise, like just you in a nutshell.
Well, there's a lot of various interests and likes, but for the most part, right now I'm a government employee. I don't know if my job will actually allow me to say what I do.
We won't say it. It's highly classified.
I had to take a government ethics training that prevents me from saying what I do.
All right.
And other than that, though, I'm a long distance runner. I live here in Providence, have for 5 years now. And I've known Eric forever, competed against him in college. He was a lot better than me, though. He probably doesn't know who I am.
I remember you, Adam. We had some battles back in the day.
What college did you go to?
I went to Worcester State University for
Nice.
1 year. Joined the Air Force, got out, and trained by myself for many years. And that's when I really started to come into my own, maybe when I was about 24, 25.
Yep.
I was running my personal best. Been training solo for many years, although we did a couple of awesome workouts
We
together.
did, yeah. Oh, classics. Some classic workouts.
And still running well, still in shape. I mean, there was a couple lean years in there where I wasn't able to run and train, but...
Yeah. Did you run like middle school and high school? Or
I was a late bloomer,
Okay.
started my junior year of high school. I remember we had time trials at the time, because that was the way to get on the team. And I remember our first time trial was 1 mile, and I had no running experience in my life, and I ran 5:57.
Wow.
And that was enough to get on the team. But I didn't come from a strong program, so I'm not really sure why we had the...
Yeah, I was gonna say, we never had time trials, and I was like, they were just like lucky to have people to run on the
Come on
cross country
out.
team.
Yeah, I came from like an inner city school with 2,000 kids, roughly.
Wow.
And oddly enough, we didn't have that good of, well, not that strong of a track and field program. I mean, we had a couple of individual success stories, but as a team, we weren't particularly strong.
Yeah.
And I found my home in the distance events. It seemed like every meet, 2 mile was my go-to.
That's it. You'll double them up.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's basically it. The highlight of my high school career was probably breaking a 2 mile record that stood since 1964.
Wow.
And that's about it.
That's when Ray was in high school.
I know, really. That was my record, by the way. I broke that record. Oh man, I can't believe you beat me. Anyway.
No, that's awesome. So when you say you're like a late bloomer, you started in your junior year of high school, and then like did you like get into it like right away, or was it something that you like kind of build up to?
Well, it definitely took years. I started as like a hockey player, and I remember...
That's cool. That's why you like hockey so much.
And at lunch, I mean, when I was younger, freshman, sophomore years, I remember these 2 men on my team that were running cross country at the time, where I was like, Adam, you're going to come out and run. And I'm like, well, how long is a race? And they're like, 3 miles. I'm like, 3 miles? Who would run 3 miles?
I know. You
That doesn't
gotta
sound
be out of your mind to do that.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Like at that point in my life, I was more interested in going to the mall and hanging out at Hot Topic or PacSun.
Yeah, or Newberry Comics. Did you do Newberry Comics?
Yeah, we only had one. It was a couple towns over.
Gotcha. Hot Topic though. That was classic.
Yeah. They still exist. They still exist, right?
Oh, they're bigger and better now. They've really invested in the anime and the wrestling.
All right.
Sweet.
Good stuff. So you got convinced by some hockey players, some other hockey players to run?
No, they were actually runners, but I just saw them at lunch. They were good kids. They were funny. And so finally, one day I'm like, all right, okay, I'll give this a try. And that first race was the most painful thing I'd ever endured in my life, that first cross-country race. Because in my head, I'm like, okay, driving 3 miles in a car isn't that bad.
Yeah.
So the gun goes off, and I made the, classic mistake of an all-out sprint.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I made it a quarter mile. I was going to say a quarter mile, but I was so new to running, I don't even know if I made it a quarter mile. My lungs were on fire. My heart was ready to burst out of my chest. I couldn't breathe. I remember saying to a kid on the other team, "Get my coach!"
I'm dying here. Get my coach.
And I think I ran something not so good. I don't even want to say what my time was.
Yeah, whatever. We can all relate.
I
to
can
that,
definitely relate
for
to
sure.
that. Yeah, the first race, oh
And
man.
it was only a 2.7 mile course because we
Yeah.
had obscure distances.
Yeah, that's something that we've all been through, man. I've
Absolutely.
been there for sure. What was your first race like, Ray?
It was horrible. Yeah, it was the same kind of thing, It was actually, for me, it was junior high school. And, back then, your courses are usually about 1.8 to 2.1, depending on what team you were going against. Ours was, I think, 1.8. And it was horrible. You start off with a mad dash at the beginning, and then you just, after the first, half mile, you're just dying to hang on, and yeah. I didn't vomit or anything like that, but I felt like it, for sure.
Your
Yeah.
first race like that.
Oh, goodness, I don't even know if I can remember my first. I started running when I was in middle school, so it was like way long ago. But probably something similar, I remember it being like, yeah. Actually, did I run? I might have run even before that, because I did like recreation cross.
Yeah, I did stuff like that. And then we'd have like field day stuff, and I'd do the 600-yard dash, but
Yeah.
600 yards is over before you know it.
Right. So yeah, I think it was much of the same. Look at all-out sprint, sucking wind, and then just like holding on for dear life.
Right.
Yeah, that was rough.
A lot of walk run, I remember in that first race.
Yep. That's how we train our beginning runner group, is the walk run.
Walk run?
It's just a classic move,
Yeah.
Cool. So you moved on to college. College is kind of where you started to like get some really quick times and.
Success was up and down during that freshman year because I felt like I was just starting. I mean, I didn't run in high school very long, so
Right.
I didn't really start coming into my own until that final outdoor track season
Okay.
of high school.
Yeah.
And then when I got to college, it was like I wasn't progressing, or improvement was inconsistent. Like I might have a really good race and then a string of bad ones and then another good one.
Yeah.
And you just had to make that jump quick. The mileage went up in college,
Yeah.
the intensity went up.
Yeah.
Some of those workouts at first almost felt like racing,
Yeah.
and that was hard to get used to, pushing yourself all the time. Even like an everyday training run, the pace was so much faster than I was used to.
Yeah.
Running on your own every day in high school, and then going to a team where guys are running, I don't know, under 7 minutes every day for a training run, whereas I was running 7:30, 7:45.
Yeah.
It was a big difference.
It's a big jump for sure.
Right.
I remember being tired all the time, and that's why, race performances were inconsistent.
Yeah, that'll do it, man.
It's kind of a newer thing for you, actually, at that point, still, right? Because you hadn't done it much in high school, so, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and then also the long runs went up too. The mileage of
That's
those
true.
long runs went up.
Cool.
Long runs. What do you remember about your college days in that freshman year?
I mean, I didn't run competitively, really. I mean, I ran a little bit on my own and a little bit like road racing and stuff like that, but yeah, it was not something that was a major thing at that point, so, yeah.
For me, it was
For me,
very
for you.
much kind of a similar experience with my coach wasn't a super high mileage guy, but the workouts were kind of intense, so that was like an adjustment for me, for sure. I didn't really like knock my times down until probably junior year of college. And then I started racing against some stud from Worcester State. But no, it was kind of much the same. Like junior year, senior year, I got going, you know.
Yeah.
What was it like? I know we have our topic this week is supposed to be running, like coming back from an injury.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see what you think about kind of running post college on your own. You know, like what that is like. Because I know when I finished college, you know, you have the team atmosphere, you got practice every day at 3:30, and then all of a sudden it goes away, and you're kind of forced to run solo. So how did you approach that?
So, what happened was, you know, after that first year at Worcester State, I wasn't really sure what the future held for me. You know, I was young, I was probably 19. Oddly enough, I don't think I was very happy with my life at that point. I kind of felt like everything was routine. I wasn't sure that college was for me. And I wanted to do something different that not everyone else was doing. So I decided to join the Air Force. And when I was all done, I had put on a lot of weight. You know, it wasn't like the commercials where there was a lot of pull-ups, push-ups, and running, you know, like intense running with combat boots and all that. Actually, it was a lot of time on my own, but the food was so good. That was the weird part.
Wow,
Like,
I never would have thought that.
yeah, so breakfast was amazing, and it was all the stuff I didn't grow up with. I kind of grew up like poor. So I'd go to the chow hall, and pancakes and waffles and sausage and bacon and Pop-Tarts, and let me get a Gatorade with that. And a peanut butter cookie, and I mean, my plates were pretty hefty.
A lot of calories.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And so, like, they're not on Facebook. I keep them in my archives, but, you know, there's pictures of me post-military where my arms are kind of, you know, like, I'm not in shape, you know, kind of droopy up top.
I see these pictures.
And so when I got out, it was like, okay, it's not so much about being competitive. I want to take care of myself. I want to get back in shape. And, you know, one of my first jobs post-Air Force was a coaching job, working with high school kids.
Oh, that's cool.
And there was some kids that could really put a hurting on me, and they were faster than I was ever, you know, and it was motivating, you know, especially like when winter track rolled around, and we went to the Reggie Lewis Center, and I was watching some of these faster local kids in Massachusetts race. It really was inspiring, you know, and it didn't happen overnight, you know, slowly I lost a little bit more weight. And at that point in my life, I was in my early 20s, I still hadn't had like a performance yet where I was kind of like a upper level runner, you know what I mean? I was okay, you know, and I just stayed consistent, and actually it was coaching that really kept me motivated, because it not only became like for me, it almost felt like I wanted to be in shape for them, and I wanted to work and train with them. And so when you have that like mindset, you know, it was about the team. I wanted them to do well. It inspired me to do long runs on my own on the weekends. You know, I was even running like in the mornings, and then I would run again with them in the afternoon. So I was like doing these double days,
double days,
sessions.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I was really paying attention to the Daniels running formula as well.
Okay.
Which is a very good training book if anyone's interested. And I remember doing these like heavy duty workouts on my own in all types of weather. You know, my home track was Holy Cross in Worcester, because I was still living in Worcester, Massachusetts at the time. And it's always windy up there, and I remember doing like 20 by 400, 10 by 800, and you're getting the whole wind on the backstretch the whole time. And yeah, it got to a point where I had like a breakthrough race, which for me was like breaking 15 minutes in the 5K. And that was the first time where it was like, wow, like I'm on to something.
Look at me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And
Yeah,
I was
I'll
probably
get
like
psyched up.
23 years old.
Yeah.
And it was just like, at least in terms of running, life changing. You know, not that I was going to start, you know, getting Nike contracts and getting paid for it.
Yeah.
But it got to a point where it was like, wow, you know, I started as like a barely under 16-minute guy to like suddenly being under 15 minutes. And it was
Yeah.
like a whole new,
Right.
you know, in this area, you'd go to like the BU mini meets or some of these more competitive meets, and you're suddenly in the elite category, you know? Like,
Right, yeah.
It was a huge jump.
Yeah, get you pumped up.
Yeah.
And it was huge for my confidence, just everyday living.
Yeah.
Just felt really good walking around, felt really good associating with my peers and having the respect of the kids I coached.
Nice.
Yeah. Do you feel like they held you like accountable every day? Like, you gotta make sure I run so kids don't kick my rear end.
Not so much that, but it was kind of like they kind of viewed you almost as like a quasi-celebrity.
It's like, yeah, you got some street cred, man.
Yeah,
This
they're like
guy's
a
legit, man.
Yeah.
You hit under 15, man. This guy's legit.
You know, like
It's true.
you'd hear all the little kids be like, wow, my coach is really fast, you know, like this little buzz.
That's
It
fun.
was cool. It was cool.
Yeah, most cross country coaches aren't that fast, Adam. You probably would be one of the top cross country coaches out there. I would imagine.
Yeah.
I just remember though in junior high school, I had a coach. I don't even think he ran, actually. So I don't know. We didn't like. I wouldn't say we didn't respect him. We respected him. But when I got to high school and my coach ran with us, I mean, he wasn't like the fastest guy in the world either. He ran with us, and I thought that was. I don't know. I just had a greater respect for him for some reason, you know. So to be able to like have them view you as a really fast runner. It's a neat thing, you know. You get a certain, I don't know.
Yeah, and it was
Certain
fun
level
to
of
do
respect.
like the workouts with them.
Yeah.
Especially those faster, harder speed sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really like I was in the trenches with them, so it was pretty cool.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
cool.
Exactly.
Would you like blow them out of the water, or would you just hold on to your like?
No, I did a lot of pacing. So for me, it was a lot of like 5-minute pace, 75-second quarters.
Yeah. Just keep them in the right zone there.
And that's always been like a strength of mine, is being very consistent in a workout.
Mm.
So I would say, this is what I'm going to pace you guys at. You can be faster, or you can stay on me, you can be slightly off, but this is what I'm going to do. And I would just stay consistent with what I was doing.
Nice.
It's a skill. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
And even sometimes the faster women like would, you know, work off of what I was doing.
Nice.
If they were training for the mile or the 800.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah. Coaching, man. It's fun stuff. I enjoyed it. I coached a middle school program, and that was kind of fun.
All right.
Mostly playing games and stuff, but it was a good
Yeah.
time.
I'm gonna go on a running scavenger hunt today.
Yeah, we used to do that in high school. We used to have to, my coach would put like markers out under cones, like all around the campus, and you had to get every color on your whole card. That was
Cool.
fun. It's like interval workout, but with markers.
It's cool.
Yeah, good stuff. So let's see. Why don't we take a quick break, real
Okay.
quick, and then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about maybe coming back from injury.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
All right. All right.
We're back. Here we go.
Here we go. All right, back at it, and yeah, let's talk a little bit about coming back from injury. I know Ray and I touched on it in the past, but I do remember that fateful day at the track when you sustained a pretty substantial injury. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, I was running with my kids and things were going really well. You know, I had that sub 15-minute 5K. And then for another probably year, I was on this ride where anytime I touched a race, track, road, trail, you name it, like I ran a personal best.
Nice.
It was just like a year of awesome.
Yeah.
And I was getting better and better, and I didn't see a stop to it. You know what I mean? It just felt amazing.
Yeah.
confidence was definitely at an all-time high. I definitely felt like I was starting to get a little bit of an ego, which wasn't a good thing. But I did a workout with Eric
Yep.
and Pat, who's not here yet. We'll get him on the show.
We'll get him on here.
We'll get him out. Bring Pat on one of these days.
Two amazing local runners, and they definitely helped me to improve. It was a summer where I was training with them. We were doing a 2-mile, 2-mile workout. And, the workout was going really well. We went through like the first 2 mile, like 9:48 or something. The mile was like high 4:40. And it was like, as soon as that interval was done, I was hurt. And it wasn't like a hurt that was like, I can take a Tylenol or I can take a few days off and be okay. It was a different type of injury and I knew it. I felt it right then and there.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to you, Eric, like, I'm really hurt. Like, I don't think this is going to be okay. And I still finished that last 2 mile with you guys. I think that one was low 950s.
Yeah, probably should have called it a day before that.
But you were able to run through it, but you knew it felt.
Yeah.
I knew
Yeah.
And I guess in my head, the mindset going into that last interval was, I don't think I can make this worse, but
Right.
I know something's really wrong.
Yeah.
But prior to that day, you didn't feel anything in your knee at all? Nothing? It was.
There was one day where I was running and I had this really sudden, like sharp pain that forced me to stop. And then I rubbed it out and I kept going and there was nothing. And then that workout, oh man, I just remember, like I don't even think I did a cool down. And I remember I had to walk home. And not that I lived particularly far, but it was like 2 miles.
Yeah.
And for that reason, to this day, I still bring my car to the track. Because if I ever get hurt again, I want to be able to drive home
Right,
instead of
yeah.
walk.
Now, was the pain like that sharp pain?
Yes, and it
Yeah.
never left.
Okay.
It just, I remember like going to bed that night, having a shower, going to bed, and then the next morning trying to run. And I went from running 10 miles a day to not even being able to run 10 feet.
Yeah, it was like that rough.
So it was
Yeah.
that bad the next day. It wasn't like you can go out there and do this. And, wow.
And I mean, the will was there. I really
yeah.
wanted it. I mean,
Oh, of course, yeah.
I would go out the front door, start running, and the pain would just go from 0 to 10, and I would have to walk.
How many times did it happen? A lot over the course of a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? How did that work out?
Happened every day.
Every day, and you kept
Every day.
trying to do it. No go.
I couldn't even make it off my driveway. And unfortunately, when I was first trying to get help, I would go to the doctors and, take some time off,
Yeah.
stretch, ice, relax.
Yeah.
And I knew it wasn't that simple.
Right.
Because, a week becomes a month off. A month becomes several months off.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then it got to a point where it was like, wow, I think this is done. I don't think I'm running again.
Yeah.
And so I went to see a sports medicine doctor. And we did, the x-ray, nothing of course, MRI. And so what he noticed had happened was the muscles around this knee right here, the right one, were so tight, pulled my kneecap out of alignment. So what was happening was I was feeling bone-on-bone grinding every time I ran.
That sounds horrible.
That does sound horrible.
And the pain was that bad where I could only make it maybe 10 steps. So the best route of fixing it was performing what they call lateral release, which is arthroscopic surgery. You put 2 holes, make an incision, and basically move your kneecap back. There's scar tissue. So I was out of running for over a year,
Yeah.
and I was pool running, and
So at what point after the injury until you went to the sports medicine?
probably 6 months.
So 6 months,
Do
okay.
you think if you had seen him sooner, things would have progressed, much quicker probably?
Ideally, yes.
But it's like tough to know, like,
It was such a slow-moving process because, you know, you have to eventually get referred,
yeah,
Yeah.
and then,
Yeah, right.
you know, like, they gotta go through their own procedures, X-ray, MRI,
yep,
Mm.
and then, you know, like, they tried a cortisone shot. And
Yeah.
I remember, like, the day I had it, I'm like, wow, this feels great. And it was the one time I was able to run.
Oh,
yeah,
And,
How far did you go?
oh man, I did like a 7-mile loop. And with a mile and a half to go, it felt like there was this huge snap.
Oh,
And I immediately had to start walking. And I was like, uh-oh, like, this is really bad now.
yeah. Oh, my Lord.
And so thankfully, you know, we went through with surgery. But the toughest part of not being able to run for, you know, over a year wasn't so much going to the pool or using the cross ramp or whatever cardio equipment I was on.
yeah.
I felt like I lost my social circle.
Mhm.
Like,
Oh, yeah,
you know, in the running community, there was guys that would text me all the time, hey, what are you doing on Sunday? You want to do a long run at 7 a.m.? Or,
Yeah.
hey, you know, I'm looking for someone to run with after work. I lost all of that. It was like all communication was gone. And in some ways it was a little hurtful because no one was like, hey, how are you doing, man? Like, is everything okay? Like, everything just stopped.
Yeah.
yeah, that's, I can relate. In college when I got injured, it's kind of the same deal, you know, it's like, you feel like you're just like on the outside looking in, really, you know, everybody's doing their thing, you know, you like see race results and you're like, oh,
That's
that
true.
used
Yeah.
to be me, I could have beat that guy, like, what the heck?
I see a lot of our group runners, you know, who are, you know, suffering from injuries and are, you know, in and out of sports medicine, physical therapy, and they come to visit on group nights, and you feel so bad for them because they're here to stay connected, and it's great to see them, and they're talking to their running peers, but when everyone leaves to go run, they can't, and it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, so they try to get to the races and cheer people on, but it's just, you know, it's not the same, right? It's not the same as getting out there and running with people. So yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
And it was
Yeah.
just as
Yeah.
you said, Eric, you know, like Facebook, social media, cool running, wherever you look for results, RaceWire, you're seeing guys progress. And some of them are even running faster than you did, guys that you trained with, you know,
Yeah.
they suddenly make that jump. And it was hard. And then, so when I was able to run again, like a year and a half after the surgery, I had really bad scar tissue build up. And I still wasn't able to like run a lot, maybe a handful of miles a day.
Yeah.
I couldn't even get down on a knee. Like, I couldn't bend down on one knee. The scar tissue buildup was bad. And then there was all these other new issues that I never had before, like shin splints regularly, minor aches and pains. If I did a workout, oh my God, it would take so much out of me in a long run. And I lost so much. And the will was there to come back. Like, I always wanted to persevere, and I was
Yeah.
going to physical therapy, massage, you name it, the chiropractor. I was doing everything I could to get healthy and race ready again.
Yep.
And it was tough because sometimes the performances weren't there, and that lasted for years.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, trying to get back in with the running community, and I kind of felt like, you know, like I got the feeling like I wasn't viewed the same. You know, I remember some people like, oh, well, you're over 30 now, you're not going to get any faster. And, maybe some local guys might say like, oh, well, maybe Adam isn't as good as he thinks he is, you know what I mean? And it was tough because the same competitive drive was there, and I had to make all these tweaks in my own training in order to get back to where I was. And I very recently just got back to where I was.
I know, I saw that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're kicking butt.
Yeah.
Kicking butt these days.
It's
You're fit.
and the thing is, I'm crazy enough, like, I'm glad everything happened the way it did,
Mhm.
because I feel like I'm a much better person, I'm much more down to earth. really have more of an empathy and understanding for what people are going through, and not just physically but mentally. You know, sometimes different things
Sure.
happen in your life, and yeah, you know, everything happens for a reason, they say, and so I'm just in a good place now.
Good.
Yeah.
That is good. That's good to hear. I think like the fact that it took years and years can kind of wear on somebody, but it's like a testament to your like drive that you stuck with it.
Perseverance for
Yeah.
sure. Keeping your head.
Unbelievable.
God, I don't know. I don't know how you can keep your head into it. I mean, minor injuries. It's tough to keep your head into it and get through it. But like that was a serious injury.
Yeah.
Serious surgery.
I thought it was career ending.
I mean, I thought you weren't going to run again.
Yeah.
So that's big, you know.
And yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, there was a lot of doubts too. You know, I doubted myself a lot. You know, like there was times where I'd do a workout or I'd run a race, and there was a lot of times where I'd cross the finish line and be like, that was okay.
Yeah.
You know, like, but it wasn't what I want. You know, what happens is you kind of get yourself to a certain level, and there's a standard in your head.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna run a 5K and I'm gonna break 15 minutes, and you want to do that every time. You know what I mean?
Right.
When you're running like barely under 16 minutes instead of barely under 15, you're like, what's wrong? I'm training just like I did before. So, one thing that really changed is I had to be like a real student of the game. A lot of YouTube video watching, a lot of learning about things outside of the sport that were particularly helpful. I was learning about nutrition. I was watching people go on, I don't know if I'm able to plug the Joe Rogan podcast.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I was
Plug it.
watching all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it really expanded, you know, my horizons, and it wasn't just running that helped me get back to where I was. It was
Yeah.
all these new things.
Sometimes it's like the other stuff that kind of gets you to that next level, you know?
Yeah.
Like I remember the same kind of deal and thinking about doing like, you know, the foam rolling, the core workouts, like doing all the other things to kind of drive you to get to a faster time. Yeah, it's interesting. Now I have a would you rather. We have this segment on our podcast
Okay,
called Would You Rather. So would you rather be attacked by a hawk on one of your runs or encounter a bobcat? What do you think, Ray?
Me?
What would you rather?
Oh, that's tough. Does a bobcat come near me? Does it jump out and touch me? Or is it just encounter it and just not know exactly what's going to happen?
I think, yeah. I think
Okay.
it's more than that, right? Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, and then maybe having the hawk dive bomb and like hit me
Yeah.
and actually hit me. I'm probably gonna go with bobcat.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that way there's no contact whatsoever. But bobcats can be pretty scary, right? So
Right.
it's like a wild, cat, a vicious wild cat.
Yeah. So how about you, Adam?
Well, I've lived through both of
You've
them.
actually-
Yeah, that's why we mentioned this because you lived through both of those experiences. So
Yeah. Because we talked about the guy who like murdered a bobcat. Remember that story?
Yes.
But we had you on, and I'm like, the dude like he ran by a bobcat and got attacked by a hawk, and then you told me about some other ridiculous animal encounters.
you've got a lot of animal encounters.
Yeah.
So first, explain the bobcat situation.
So the bobcat, I was running. This was maybe September of 2018. And I remember it was a wild day weather-wise. We had some type of like hardcore rain that came in the afternoon. It was a freakishly hot day, and then the skies opened up. So I was running, and I like to go through Butler Hospital here in Providence. And I'm kind of running around the perimeter of the woods, and I see this animal, and it's big, and it's laying on its side. I mean, I shouldn't say like big, but probably like the size of a small dog maybe. And it was very muscular and strong, and it was laying on its side in the grass.
Licking its chops.
Yeah, it had its tongue hanging out. And I thought it was dead, to be honest. I mean, it was just laying in the grass, and I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I'm not sure I want to get too close, so I kind of ran around it.
Yeah.
And I kept going, and you know, to add some dramatic effect to the weather, you know, at this point the sky starts opening up, and it kind of reminds me of that scene in, do you ever remember the movie The Never-Ending Story?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So Atreyu comes across the Nothing, which is that big wolf, you know what I mean? The shark teeth.
Yeah.
Grrr,
It
crazy.
was a scary beast.
Yeah, so I make my, you know, normal loop around the building, and I'm starting to exit. And at this point, I see that animal again, and it's now sitting up like the Nothing.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
it's kind of like, I look at it, and you know, bobcats, they got like that kind of fur.
Fur that comes out, yeah.
And I see it, and it's sitting in the grass like a sphinx, and I'm like, oh no. Like, at this point, it started moving. Like, it kind of got up a little bit, and its big, strong front paws, I see it move.
I changed my mind. I might take the hawk.
Oh,
I might take the
yeah.
hawk in the back of the head. It's frightening.
And so at this point, oh my God, it gets so dark. It's starting to downpour. And as soon as I see that thing moving, I like book it to the nearest building. And I'm looking for like security at Butler. And I'm like, you have a bobcat out there. Like, and so the guy goes, okay, like, do you need a ride off campus? And I'm like, please, like, I don't want to go by that thing again. And so we get in like the car, and he's like taking me around. The driveway's kind of windy, and I'm like, it was over there. And he shines like this big bright like spotlight on it, and as soon as the light hits the thing, it like scurried off in the woods, but you could see it before it scurried off in the woods. And he was like, was that it? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, I gotta call animal control. And like, he drove me off campus, and then I was able to run home. At this point, it was very cold, heavy rain.
Oh man.
You know, it was fall.
That's
We were kind of
crazy.
transitioning from summer to fall.
Yeah.
But, man,
Yeah, because those things, I mean, usually you encounter a wild animal on a run or any time, and they usually, if they see people, they usually run. The fact that it didn't run away was kind of spooky, you know?
Yeah.
and
It's scary.
no matter how fast you run as a human being, an animal will outrun you. That is a fact.
I tried to explain
It's
that.
science.
I tried to explain to my children this weekend. Like, you know, yeah, you can't outrun a wild animal. You know,
Yeah.
so.
Man, that's frightening.
And as for the hawk, this was going back a while, but near my hometown, Worcester, Massachusetts, there's a place I loved running regularly. It was in the next town over called West Boylston. It was called the Rail Trail. And the Rail Trail, if you're familiar with just in general living and training in New England, once that first snow comes and it starts to accumulate, you probably can't run there till like St. Patrick's Day, early
Yeah.
April.
Yeah, no, it's true.
It takes a while for all that snow to melt. So at this point, we had like a, I don't know, maybe a 60-degree day. It was probably early April. So, you know, temperatures are starting to rise. But what was happening was all the snow started melting, and it created this like fog effect in the woods.
Man, that's so creepy.
I know. And so I'm running in the woods and doing the long run. I have my iPod in because at that point I loved running with music. Winter hat on because there was still snow and it was cooler in the woods than it would be on the roads. And so I'm rolling along, probably 8 miles into the woods, and going slightly downhill, all this fog, thick woods, and I felt like this right next to my head.
What is this thing?
It was the breeze. It was like a and I'm like, what was that? And it could see it go in front of me and up on a tree, and it's looking down on me, and it's kind of like squawking, like,
Oh my
it's
lord.
moving these, you know, its wings nice and fast,
Oh my god.
and it's like it was doing this other thing that was weird. It's like pooping itself. So it was like falling, and it's just like, and I don't know if I was too
It's
close
so-
to a nest.
That's so bizarre. Maybe.
Yeah.
Could have been. Or maybe it just thought, I mean, it just saw something and it went for it.
Well, I did have one of those like, you know, Russian winter hats on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You look like a little squirrel.
Like
Yeah.
a squirrel or a mouse or something, just dive bombing at you. That's kind of, and if there was a little like mist or fog, might have, you know,
So at that point,
it's wild.
it went down once, and I'm like, okay, whatever.
It's not gonna happen again.
Did it again. And this time it took a chunk out of my hat near my ear.
That's crazy.
This little talon took a chunk out of my hat. I still have the hat.
I might go back with a bobcat. I don't know if I would want to have it.
Oh,
That's
man.
kind of freaky too.
And so it takes a chunk out of my hat, and I'm like, oh, like this is for real now. I take the iPod headphones out, and I started like, I didn't want to continue running because it kept coming after me. And this went on for a long time. This was like,
It's unbelievable.
no joke,
Oh
a
my
half
Lord.
an hour.
Just being
That's
attacked by
unbelievable.
a
Oh
And
my
so,
Lord.
like, I picked up like 2 sticks that I found on the ground. I was trying to bat the thing out of the air when it was coming down at me, or I duck. And this thing was relentless. It did not stop,
Jeez.
and it just kept making that squawking noise, and it would come down, come down.
Man.
And I stopped running. I stopped my watch, and I was backing away, but looking at it, because I wanted to be able to see this thing. And it was going from tree to tree to tree, never like in a north-south. It was always just kind of, it changed direction. And I mean, it was relentless. And I remember calling for help. I'm 8 miles deep in the woods. Nobody can hear me.
Goodness.
Oh my
I didn't
God.
have a phone, and what good would that do? Like if someone said, well, what's your location? Oh, I'm like 8 miles deep in the rail trail, on
Yeah.
this unsanctioned trail.
I think there's an big oak tree. Yeah.
So eventually, I thought like this has to stop. I dropped the sticks, and I went into like maybe even faster than race pace because of adrenaline, just through the woods. I didn't even look back. I think it might have came at me 1 or 2 more times, but at that point I was moving quick,
Yeah.
and I eventually lost it. And I came out, I don't know where I ended up, but it was in some random person's backyard. I might not have even been in West Boylston at that point.
Yeah.
And this guy just happened to be like chopping wood in his backyard. I'm like, dude, I just got attacked by a hawk. Like, I don't need anything, but can you just tell me how to get back to my car? And it was like 10 miles that way. And I'm like,
jeez.
okay, it's worth it to me.
Got a nice long run in that day.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with this stupid hawk anymore.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So if you can recall that story every time at the beginning of a race, you might get a nice adrenaline rush, to take you through. Oh my God.
That was terrifying. I don't know if I could ever simulate that at a race, just
Oh my God.
and a hawk, especially with those wings spread wide, it's not a small animal.
No. Nope.
Freaking huge coming down at your head.
Yeah. And they come down, it's a lot of weight, and they just come down so hard because that's what they do. They just pounce on something. So, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So we've learned today that Adam's not only a really good runner, he's a very good storyteller.
He's a really good storyteller. We gotta have him on here like more often
Yeah.
to tell some other stories.
Well, it comes from life experience.
Yeah. Right, those are the
Can't
best
make
stories.
stuff up.
Best stories. Stranger than fiction.
Oh, man.
I try to keep it as authentic as possible. I don't want to exaggerate anything.
Yeah.
But man,
Oh,
That was
dude.
great.
Good stuff. But I think we do have to wrap it up.
Yeah, we do. We have to raptor it up.
That
was a good one.
clever.
All right.
More birds of prey.
Yes.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Adam.
Hey, thank you guys for having me.
We'll have you on again.
Stop in, and next time, how about it's not about me? We'll talk about something
We'll
that
talk about
everybody can
everybody.
relate to.
Yeah,
totally.
Everything that we're dealing with and a part of. So
Totally, dude.
keep running strong, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, and we'll see y'all next week.
All right.
Keep running, folks.